What's up, honors? My wife just sent me a text. Bangs or no bangs, as in her hair. I'm gonna go with IDK. All right, so I'm not ready to make that kind of life decision yet. All right, anyway, so we started talking today in class about the Napoleonic Code and how that was such a dramatic effect on things like liberalism and conservatism in the European sphere of influence, I guess you could call it. So it was a civil law. Why do I have to decide this? Anyway, so these are where we stopped in class, though. We talked about the big six. Now, the first one was, now, if you look at the first three, and then the second three, you can see what I mean by the divide in his ideas. The divide between liberalism as been wanting change and conservatism as in going back to the way that things were. And decide, please. Bangs, no bangs? No bangs. All right, anyway. So, safeguarded all forms of property. So he was a big thing about how, like, the John Lockean perspective of things, of saying, you're like life, liberty, property, right? Employment based on talent, not birth. That was a huge one. He actually tried to get rid of nepotism in the French Empire. The idea is that who you are related to gets you a better job. Because remember, the Second Estate had all of the high government jobs, and that was just because of the family that they were from. Now, also, merit-based pay. How hard you work determines how much you get paid. Liberal ideas, awesome, right? Then he started going to the old school conservative ideas. And I'm not saying that modern day conservatives are unfair, but back during this time period, it was very unfair because it was very unfair to the poor. Now, anyway, so workers' organizations were strictly forbidden. That's what you come to think of, like unions fighting for workers' rights or protecting workers' rights. Men were granted extensive control of their families. You young men in our class, as 14-year-olds under Napoleonic Code, would have more rights than your actual mom. All right, so anyway, also, divorce was made nearly impossible for women. So it was only up to the man to decide. Also, he reintroduced slavery into all of the French colonies. Big, big problem, and especially when we talk about Haiti in the future. So anyway, let's keep going, though. Napoleon's empire was massive. He began to, like, in 1803, he started these things, write this down, he started these things as called the Napoleonic Wars, in which he started conquering different areas of the European continent. He wanted to create one giant unified Europe with French culture at the heart of it. So he actually invaded Spain in 1810. He invaded German lands in 1806. He invaded northern Italy in 1805. So he just divide, conquer, expand all over, right? And the reason why he was so strong is underneath his empire, he could put together as many as 700,000 men at any one time and was willing to risk 100,000 of them in a single battle and endure heavy losses and return to fight again. He believed in the idea of one giant battle. Make it quick. Demoralize them early, right? He actually also, at one point, when the Austrians tried to fight him in about 1810, he actually beat the living tar out of them, which no one up to that point had ever done before. Now, he never actually went in and invaded Austria officially, simply because they were too big and too strong. All right, so anyway, I'm very afraid of the Ottoman Empire and how big that they were getting. All right, anyway, I don't know what unicorn means. Unicorn? What emoji is that? Anyway, love you so much, thinking of you. Anyway, so, no single enemy can match Napoleon's resources. Even allied countries failed. So anyway, also, Napoleon, this is one of the money things. You gotta circle this bad boy. It's as important as saying consulate, or first consul, or empire, or Napoleonic Code. He established this thing called the Continental system because he wanted to try and crush Britain, his only real remaining foe, through their wallet, okay? The Continental system said that if you are an ally of Napoleon or if you are under his control, he was unable to compete with their navy, so he said, I'm going to cripple them economically. He forbid everyone inside of his Continental Allied system from trading with the British. He hoped to create a revolution. He was really hoping that he could get England to be in such economic strife that they would revolutionize against England's rulers and then side with Napoleon. Very clever idea when you think about it, because following a major naval battle at the Battle of, it starts with a T, for extra credit. Whoever comes in and tells me the naval battle in which Napoleon was destroyed by the British Navy first Cannot be email, must be eye-to-eye, visual, all right? And it has to happen after the time of, when will I have you guys tomorrow? You must tell me first, starting at 9:30 tomorrow. So following any time after 9:30, whoever tells me first. All right? No emails. No emails. All right? So anyway, you have to create a revolution. But ironically enough, the Continental system was a huge failure. As you can see back here, Napoleon's looking super grumpy about it. Now, anyway, huge failure because Britain survived by just trading with North and South America and also their African colonies, these burgeoning markets that they had. Did they take a little bit of economic loss? Yeah, sure. But during the Industrial Revolution that was starting to get kicked up, they were making a lot of money for themselves, taking raw materials from colonies and processing them in-house. So many of Napoleon's economic policies favored only France, which also angered the conquered areas. He is not making friends using this system. He is leading to a lot of resentment. Right now it's about 1810, 1815. The dice are rolling forward and everybody's starting to get very upset with him, okay? Russia especially hated the changes that were coming to Europe because their economy was growing so rapidly. Remember, under Peter the Great and Catherine the Great, they started to grow very rapidly. They brought industrialism back and they started moving on their own. Russia didn't like the changes that were coming to Europe, and they didn't like the fact that they were being crippled economically by the French. So in 1810, Russia withdrew from the Continental system. It was like, you want us to re-enter? Come and fight us then. All right, anyway. And they said, you can only fight us here. We're not coming after you. So the invasion of Russia was Napoleon's biggest failure, all right? Napoleon determined to end the Russian military threat by amassing the biggest army that he's ever had, all right? The Grand Army, made up of 600,000 men, which actually may be an underestimate. So anyway, made up of 600,000 men. Now, I said he could put together 700,000, but usually that would be split up and sent to conquered of their different areas. He amassed 600,000 men just to invade Russia. Now, the core of that army was French-trained soldiers, and then he also got the rest of them from the empire. So he had Austrian soldiers, he had Italian soldiers, he had German soldiers, Spanish soldiers, all kinds of people. Ugh, my shoes are getting scuffed up. All right, anyway, so the Russians, though, are going to use an amazing tactic to defeat Napoleon, called scorched earth. Circle that. So important. You're going to need to know it. I'm not even kidding. You will need to know that idea because the concept of scorched earth is so important to history. Scorched earth is the idea of pretty much because Russia was so outmanned. They only had 160,000 men. So they were outnumbered almost 6-1. So scorched earth is the idea that Russia would say, all right, we're going to engage France on the border and give them a slap in the face, and then we're going to run off. And as we retreat, we're going to burn everything else in our wake. So as the Grand Army moves further and further and further into Russia, they're going to run out of supplies. And usually as you conquer into a country, you take advantage of the supplies that are left laying around. You take advantage of their wheat fields, their corn fields, and you use those to feed your troops. Now, ironically enough, also, Napoleon was the first one to experiment with tin canning. So he actually started canning a lot of the products in tin cans. And the thing about it, though, is there's this disease that tin can get. It's called tin blight. And it's actually a fungus that lives inside a tin. And it thrives particularly in colder environments. So the tin actually got a disease, and a lot of the cans started breaking open, and a lot of their food started going bad. And also, all the French military jackets were made out of tin buttons. So they were in Russia during the wintertime trying to cover themselves with jackets that wouldn't fasten. So anyway, the Russians defeated Napoleon because the French were not prepared to fight in the Russian winter. Many of them died from frostbite and freezing to death. If somebody, extra credit opportunity number 2. Tell me you can't come and talk to me until after noon, until after 12 noon. If you can come and tell me first, and this is for your test that's going to be coming up on Monday, what ratio of Napoleon's men died due to frostbite or freezing during the invasion of Russia, okay? So anyway, he left with 600,000 men. Napoleon only returned with 100,000 men. The original 600,000, that's terrible. Returning with 1 out of every 6, he's such a jerk, all right? Because when he came back home, now the other countries in the Continental system are angry because their all of their soldiers are dying. The French are mad at them because he had a folly and a huge failure, like a huge military failure where they lost 500,000 men. It's embarrassing. So this is going to lead to his exile. Now, crazy fact about this, he actually carried with him, even in the invasion of Russia, a poisonous pill. right? A cyanide capsule, I believe. He carried it in his pocket in case it was a failure. He was going to take it and kill himself. And much like Hitler. So anyway, and much like Caesar. All right. Anyway, so now, well, Caesar didn't kill himself. Cleopatra killed herself. But like Caesar, well, I think the same spirit is reincarnated in all these people. Now, after the Russian campaign, though, Napoleon was overthrown, captured, and he carried this little pill with him. He was about to be exiled and turned over to the British to be put onto the island Elba. He took the pill and he popped it. And he was like, all right, what now? I'm just going to kill myself anyway. But because it been in his pocket for so long, it lost a lot of its potency. And so what happened is he just got violently ill and threw up a couple times and still got arrested by the British and put onto the island of Elba. So anyway, but then while on the island of Elba, no one knows to this day how he escaped, but he's going to escape his exile. I don't remember how long he was there, but so he escaped exile and tried to reconquer France, and he was live and active in France for 100 days, right? So he tried to return to France and take his country back. But the 100 days is the time period in which Napoleon escaped from Elba to reclaim France. Make sure you write that down. But the allies, though, of the Austrians, the Germans, the Russians, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Italians, at the Battle of Waterloo, they destroyed Napoleon and his loyal forces, and he was sent into exile again in Saint Helena, where it is believed that he died of stomach cancer. So that is the end of Napoleon's era in Europe. Okay, so that is the last of this unit, and we're going to get kicked up. So now, write this down really quick. Lingering effects of Napoleon's reign. Battles between ideas of conservatism and liberalism. Second thing. In need of restructuring following his immediate retreat. Now we have all of these countries that are unorganized, like, for example, who's going to own Italy? Will Italians own themselves? Who's going to own Germany? Will Germans own themselves? We don't know, right? So he took over so much area that when he was gone, all of that just went away, and France just went back to its original borders. Now we don't have a French Empire anymore, so who's going to take control of all these outlying countries and people, okay? Well, a lot of empires are going, so what are we going to do? And the last thing was the modern military has been born, okay? So that is going to be all for today, Camden Catholic. Such a good flip sesh. Really, really enjoyed it. Love talking about this guy. If anybody finds a couple other fun facts about him, look him up. Come in and tell us about him tomorrow. Well, we're going to be doing a study guide tomorrow, review game on Friday, test on Monday, okay? I'll see y'all then, honors.